Hey everyone, welcome to Mohksh, where I share simple concepts and approaches on the what and the how to liberate ourselves from material desires and invoking the Guru within us through purity of body, clarity of mind, and refinement of speech. My goal is to help you achieve a constant state of mindfulness and create energy by practicing concentrative meditation, Kundalini Awakening, mantra sadhana, and more. We human beings are incredibly lucky to be born as human. Sometimes we feel that luck is running out pretty quickly, and what can we do about it? The key to making your own luck is to first understand what we are made of, physically, mentally, and beyond mental comprehension. This allows us to keep one foot grounded on the path of righteousness while we perform our daily duties as a grihastha, which means a householder or a family person, to put it simply. There are many sources out there that talk about the importance of meditation and astrology and so forth, but given my experiential learning from the teachings of rishis many moons ago and genuine gurus, I've come to the conclusion that most of the information out there is either too complex and theoretical or simply may not be experiential. My goal here is to bring forth the teachings grounded in practicality in a simple yet impactful way, and I hope I have done some justice to propagate the teachings of our revered gurus. In some way, this is my dharma and my karma. Let's begin with introducing you the 8 key ingredients that makes us, binds us, and frees us. We are an aggregation of 8 ingredients, if I may use that word, that makes us whole. They are ego, elements, chakras, pranas, karmas, planes of existence, and modes of nature. I shall be explaining what each of these ingredients are and why they are important to understand even before we begin to embark on our spiritual journey. With that, let's get started with a very important concept of ego, which I'm sure all of you are aware of to some degree or another. Hopefully, this is as interesting for you to understand as it is for me to talk about. As a reminder, if you don't wish to miss out on such topics, a simple gesture would be to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, helping others in their spiritual journey as well. Before I get into the fundamentals of ego, I'd like to define in a very simple way what is Maya and Moh. Maya means illusion and Moh means attachment. Ego, when it self identifies with a set of attributes, it attaches itself to them, which creates Moh. What you attach yourself to in the material world is through the process of Moh, is Maya, which means an illusion. Your wealth, your life, your friends are all nothing but an illusion. Why? They only exist because you do. But they are a temporal construct by the universe for your mind to experience them as real. What we will dive into the later episodes is not what's real, but what's the truth. Because it's really the truth that sets you free, that liberates you, and that's what moksha is about. Well, we'll talk a lot about ego in a second, but first, let's understand the 4 states of mind. In the realm of psychology and spirituality, the mind is often described as having 4 distinct states known as Chatush Antakarana. Chatush means 4 and Antakarana means total states. These 4 inner instruments resides in the subtle body, and I will explain subtle body in a separate episode. So, the four aspects of the mind are: number one, manas, which is sensory mind; chitta, which is memory and subconscious mind; buddhi, which is intellect and discerning mind; and finally, ahamkara, which is ego and self identity. Understanding and harmonizing these states can lead to greater self awareness and inner growth. The concept of the four states of mind provides a framework for understanding the different aspects of our mental and emotional processes. Let me clearly define what each state of mind means for your understanding. Let's begin with manas. This state represents the sensory mind, which is responsible for processing information received through the senses. It is associated with perception, sensory experiences, and immediate reactions to stimuli. Manas is constantly engaged in processing sensory input, allowing us to interact with the external world. Coming to chitta. Chitta refers to the memory and subconscious mind. It stores past experiences, impressions, and emotions. Chitta acts as a reservoir of memories and influences our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. It holds deep seated patterns and conditioning, shaping our responses to various situations. Buddhi represents the intellect and discerning mind. It is associated with reasoning, analysis, decision making, and critical thinking. Buddhi allows us to evaluate and judge situations, make informed choices, and exercise logical reasoning. It helps us in understanding complex concepts and discerning right from wrong. Ahamkara represents the ego and self identity, the topic of today's episode. It is the aspect of the mind that creates a sense of individuality and personal identity. Ahamkara is responsible for our attachment to labels, roles, and beliefs, shapes our self perception, and influencing our actions. It can either be a source of self confidence or a limiting factor in our growth. And hence, we are going to focus on rewiring ego, which has a domino positive effect on manas, chitta, and buddhi. Understanding and harmonizing these four states of mind is crucial for personal development and spiritual growth. By becoming aware of the sensory input processed by manas, we can make conscious choices about our reactions. Exploring and healing the impressions stored in chitta allows us to release emotional baggage and cultivate a healthier mindset. Developing the buddhi enhances our discernment and clarity of thought. Finally, transcending the limitations of ahamkara, that is ego, helps us to connect with our true essence beyond the ego, fostering self awareness and inner growth. By recognizing and integrating these aspects of the mind, we can cultivate a more balanced and harmonious state of being, leading to greater self awareness, personal transformation, and overall well being. So let's get into the details of what constitutes ego, that is, Ahamkara. Ahamkara, a term derived from Sanskrit, refers to the concept of ego or the sense of individual identity. It is the aspect of the mind that gives rise to the perception of I, as in the alphabet I, or self. Ahamkara shapes our self identification, creating a sense of separateness and personal identity. It is through Ahamkara that we establish our attachment to labels, roles, beliefs, influencing our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. While a healthy ego provides a sense of self confidence and individuality, excessive identification with the ego can lead to self centeredness and limitation. Spiritual practices often aim to transcend the ego, allowing individuals to connect with their true self beyond the confines of the egoic self. Hence, a person's personality is nothing but his ego self identifying with a set of attributes. Personality refers to the way individuals perceive and present themselves, encompassing a set of attributes, traits, and behaviors. It is a result of the ego's self identification with these characteristics. According to the concept presented, all beings have egos, which are the sense of individual identity. As a result, every being possesses a unique personality. The notion of self identification with one's actions suggests that when individuals strongly associate their actions with their ego, it further strengthens and reinforces ego's attachment to the limited and transient aspects of their personality. This identification binds the ego more tightly to the personality, reinforcing its sense of identity based on external actions and experiences. In this context, the concept of karma comes into play. When actions are performed with a strong sense of egoic identification, they are believed to generate karmic consequences. These consequences, in turn, contribute to the binding of the ego and its reinforcement of the limited personality. Special emphasis on the word limited personality. Overall, this perspective highlights the role of self identification, ego, and the influence of actions on the formation and reinforcement of personality, as well as the potential consequences in terms of karmic bondage. I would like to bring forth an interesting law. It's called Kita Brahmari Nyaya, which is the law of the caterpillar and butterfly. The caterpillar's ego continuously concentrates on its body, just as your ego is continuously self identifying with your own body and your own personality. Otherwise, you wouldn't exist. But at some point, the caterpillar's ego stops self identifying exclusively with its caterpillar form and begins to identify with its butterfly form. It imagines itself to be a butterfly for so long that in the end it becomes a butterfly. Actually, it was always a butterfly, and only time and concentration was necessary for cause to reveal itself in effect. Here is a brain tattoo for you to commit to memory. Cause is effect concealed, effect is cause revealed. The human body is a vessel into which consciousness pours according to individual capacity, filling the body via the nervous system. The spine and spinal cord extend consciousness from the brain, which is the pole of greatest awareness, which is called Shiva, to the coccyx, the pole of greatest density. Each body cell expresses its own sort of consciousness according to its own capacity. Body cells identifies with the ego that you have chosen to self-identify with. As long as you're in the grips of one or all of the 8 snares of ego, which is called Ashtapasha. Ashta means 8 and Pashas means noses. You are no better and are probably worse than an animal, known as a Pashu. The 8 noses of ego are lust, anger, greed, delusion, envy, shame, fear, and disgust. All of us today in the Kali Yuga are Pashus, animals meant for sacrifice, trapped by the 8 snares. One of the most effective ways to get rid of the Ashtapashas in Kali Yuga is to cut through them with Concentrative Meditation and Kundalini Awakening. Please do check out the episode on the concept of time to know more about the different yugas. Coming back, if you can withstand the pain of having your personality ripped from you, then you can sacrifice yourself. And then, when you are dead to the world, new samskaras are created. Simply, what does samskara mean? It's a purificatory ceremony or rite marking a major event in one's life. If you have heard the word agora, this is what agora is all about. Now, the expression of Shakti, which means energy, in the physical body is prana, which is the life force, the power which keeps the body, mind, and spirit functioning together as a living unit. All parts of one's being require prana. Physical life, health, longevity requires that Ahamkara self identifies strongly with the individual organism so that sufficient prana will enliven the body, while spiritual health requires Ahamkara to relinquish most of this attachment. Only when Ahamkara begins to release its self identification with the limited and temporary personality, that portion of energy which is freed is called Kundalini. Let me repeat that. Only when ego begins to release its self identification with the limited temporary personality, the portion of energy which is freed, which is released, is called Kundalini. I will expound on Kundalini extensively in the forthcoming episodes. For now, having understood the 8 nooses that binds our ego with our limited selves, and freeing up ego releases Chit Shakti as opposed to Maya Shakti. You might have guessed by now that we possess 2 kinds of energy: Chit Shakti, that is the Kundalini Shakti, and Maya Shakti, which is ego. Maya, a universal illusion, envelops us like a layer of snake's skin. But even a snake sheds its skin 4 to 12 times a year. Chit Shakti, which is the power of consciousness or subjectivity, identifies with the unmanifested absolute. And Maya Shakti, which is the power of unconsciousness or objectivity, identifies with the world, the manifestation of the absolute. These 2 Shaktis cannot exist without one another. Thus, it is important for us on our spiritual journey to begin learning how to progressively control our Maya Shakti, which is ego, and ignite our Chit Shakti, which is Kundalini. When your Chit Shakti is completely awakened, you will realize, to some extent, like I have, without an element of doubt, that the One exists in the All, and the All defines the One. Unity and duality both exist simultaneously. Wherever Chit Shakti is displayed, there is wisdom and sensation. Otherwise, there is ignorance and insensibility. I deliberately use the word wisdom as opposed to intelligence, since I believe that achieving a spiritual goal bestows wisdom, which is beyond the temporary illusion of information and intelligence. Identifying himself or herself with a shallow ego, one takes for granted that it is he who thinks, wills, feels, digests meals, and keeps himself alive, never admitting through reflection, only a little would suffice, that in his ordinary life he is not but a puppet of past actions, which is karma, and of the nature or environment. Each man's intellectual reactions, feelings, moods, and habits are circumscribed by effects of the past causes, whether in this or prior life. Lofty above such influences, however, is his regal soul. And Kundalini, when awakened from its sleep of self delusion, frees us from the very things that binds us. Maya Shakti keeps you awake to the world and asleep to the absolute, whereas Chit Shakti awakens you to the reality and puts you to sleep regarding worldly matters. Since the consciousness of a living being is conditioned by the matter in which it resides, the greatest Maya that we experience is the Maya of the matter which makes up our bodies. We will talk about the five elements in our bodies in the forthcoming episodes. As long as we live the embodied life, each one of us participates in the play of nature, binding ourselves to the world by the things we accrete in our personalities. So, Ahamkara is called Kundalini Shakti when it begins to awaken from its sleep of self delusion. Until that time, Ahamkara creates and reinforces your mind with limited personality by self identifying with your physical and mental attributes. The conscious personality is a sort of a museum whose curator, in this case ego, selects objects for display to others from the museum's warehouse, the subconscious. These objects are assembled into exhibits, the personality fragments, which each act as if it were the personality while it operates. Popular exhibits enjoy a longer run, while less patronized exhibits are changed more quickly. Eventually, the museum goes out of business, and at the moment of death, when the ego completely forsakes the limited personality which it has supported for so many years. Until Kundalini is completely awakened, Ahamkara will continue to act in large part as if it were the self, and whatever you do will continue to be motivated by your own self importance and attachment to your sense of difference from the rest of the world. As you chop your awareness and prana free from Ahamkara's grasp, you free them to identify with something new. This energy is our personal fragment of the cosmic power of self identification. Thanks solely to this sense of I-ness, we exist as individuals. In an ordinary individual, the ego resides at the lower end of the spinal cord because gravity has full power over her. So long as she lies there, sleeping, the individual remains in ignorance. If you want to liberate the ego from her restrictions, you must create a force within your body to counteract the force of gravity. This can only be done by strenuous penance. The purpose of all spiritual practices in every religion is to disengage the ego from her identification with the limited personality, so that she may reunite with her perennial personality. And the way, even that I have experienced, is activating the chakras in our body. As we progress further in understanding ourselves, you will see how these all come together and why it is important to focus on the approach of activating our creative energies. I guess there was quite a bit for you to chew on, to think on. If there was one thing that you would like to take away from this episode on ego, remember this. The only difference between ego, known as Ahamkara, and Kundalini is the object with which you self identify. To borrow a saying in Sanskrit, Swabhavo Vijayati iti Shauryam. Swa means self, Bhavo means nature, Vijay means to conquer, and Shaurya means heroic. Putting it together, it means the true heroism is to conquer your own nature. In the next episode, I'll walk you through everything you need to know about the 5 elements that makes us and binds us. It's also one of the 8 ingredients. I hope you're loving these episodes, and it would be good karma to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're hearing this through an audio podcast, please feel free to rate. You could reach out to me for any questions or help at the email in the description. Remember, you are the Guru, and it is your responsibility to invoke the Guru in you. See you in the next one.